Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs and Cubs fans. Listen, we are coming off the Cubs sweeping the New York Mets, and now they head to Milwaukee for a huge test. But even bigger news than all of that. The Chicago Cubs made a move last night and got a pitcher. But listen, the Chicago Cubs ain't done, and they ain't done by a long shot. What I'm hearing, we'll talk about after this. Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, your number one spot for all things Chicago Cubs. Hey, I'm your host, Mike Jones. Thanks so much for tuning in. Do me a favor, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of Chicago Cubs Central. And of course, every single time that the Chicago Cubs do win a game, we fly the W right here on Chicago Cubs Central. Guys, for the 44th time, we go ahead and fly the W right here on Chicago Cubs Central as the Chicago Cubs go ahead and take care of business and beat up on the New York Mets. So we're thankful for that because God knows we needed it, especially heading to Milwaukee, who are hot to trot right now. The Milwaukee Brewers are doing work, man. Like I said, they are winning like they're supposed to. The Cubs are 44-37 on the season. Milwaukee is 49-29 on the season right now. So again, the Chicago Cubs going heading to Milwaukee. It is going to be a tough series starting Friday night, where you see none other than the hottest pitcher in baseball, Jacob Misiorowski, almost a shoe-in for Cy Young. And it's not because Shohei Ohtani can't win it. It's because Jacob Misiorowski is going to take it from him. I just have that feeling he's going to take it from him versus them not give it to Shohei Ohtani. Because Shohei Ohtani is a good pitcher too, even though his catcher is ass. But like I said, that's another story for another day. Anyways, again, like I said, the Chicago Cubs right now, a couple of things to note. We are officially halfway through the regular season for the Chicago Cubs, and the notable paces for the Cubs, they're pacing to win 88 games and lose 74 games on the season. So the Chicago Cubs are on pace right now to have another winning season. Now the question is, does 88 wins get you into the postseason? Is that enough to get you to a wild card spot? It's definitely not enough to win you the division. You're going to need to win 95 games probably to win this division this year. PCA is on pace to have a slash line of 287, 367, 521 with 34 home runs, 90 RBIs, 36 stolen bases, 26 doubles, 64 walks, 176 hit, a 10 B WAR and a 9.6 F WAR for him. Like I said, that's a 30-30, another 30-30 season for PCA, trending right now in that direction. We're looking at Hap right now trending towards 32 home runs, 30 doubles, and an 800 OPS. Michael Busch with 108 walks is where he's trending right now. And then Dansby Swanson is trending towards 22 home runs and 20 stolen bases. So again, the Chicago Cubs, while we have seen the Chicago Cubs struggle, while we have seen them go through a lot of hard times, a lot of rough things going on, especially with all of these pitching injuries, the Chicago Cubs are still trending upward, looking to be into the fight until the very end for at least a wild card spot. So very, very interested to see what they end up doing and what ends up happening with all of that. Let me know your thoughts below on those trending numbers. Obviously, 88 wins, 74 losses. Does that get you a wild card playoff spot? Obviously, like I said, looking at PCA, 287, 367, 521 with 34 home runs, 90 RBIs, 36 stolen bases, 26 doubles, 64 walks, 176 hits. Is that enough to have him in the MVP conversation? Let me know your thoughts below. Ian Happ, 32 home runs. His first 30 plus home run season this will be. And he would have 30 doubles on the season too. This is what he's pacing towards. This is not saying that this is exactly what he's going to get, but if the trajectory is correct, these numbers that he's hitting, this could be the finality of things. So let me know your thoughts on his stuff. Of course, Michael Busch, 108 walks. And then, of course, Dansby Swanson, 22 home runs for the season and 20 stolen bases, a 2020 season for Dansby. Now, like I said, with the heater that he went on in this Mets series, it becomes a little bit more feasible for him to do this, to hit 22 home runs and have 20 stolen bases. So be very interested to see what happens with all of this. Let me know your thoughts below on that. Now, let's talk about it, guys. The Chicago Cubs are poised to make a huge move. Like I said, the Chicago Cubs will make another huge pitching acquisition. Like I said, everything that I've been hearing, I've been talking to some of my sources throughout the MLB and throughout the league. Like I said, and they're trying to figure out what they're hearing and what's happening. And like I said, it is looking like the Chicago Cubs have been on the phones and they have been working towards finding another starting pitcher. They are looking for somebody that could potentially be a 2 or 3 in the pitching rotation. So again, a 2 or 3 in the pitching rotation. So again, like I said, what they're willing to give up, we're not necessarily sure. They are open to trading some of the prospects that are in AAA right now and some that are in AA for this, especially, and also add in cash considerations. But the Chicago Cubs will be adding another starting pitcher to this to this team here in the near future. They're trying to get this done as quickly as possible. And this comes off the heels of some really tough news that we'll get into here in a bit. And the Chicago Cubs really looking to figure out exactly what they can do. Drew Pomeranz is also back on the Chicago Cubs after a failed stint with the Los Angeles Angels. Drew Pomeranz is looking to remake and rehash the same success he had in 2025 with the Chicago Cubs, looking to try to bring that same success back here in 2026. So Drew Pomeranz, you probably will see him here in the majors here not before long. They might do a AAA stint, kind of get some of his stuff together, and then bring him up to the majors, call him up to the majors when need be, to work out of the bullpen. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, like I said, the Chicago Cubs are poised to make a big pitching acquisition. We know that the Chicago Cubs need it. We know that the Chicago Cubs are desperate for it. Like I said, David Peterson was a decent pickup, and I'll talk about that in the next segment. But like I said, I want to know from you guys your thoughts. Do you think the Chicago Cubs desperately need pitching more, or do they need hitting more? I want to know from you guys your thoughts. So make sure you comment below your thoughts on that. Now, again, from what I'm hearing, from what my sources are telling me, which my sources have not let me wrong yet, the Chicago Cubs are going to add another frontline starter, a 2 or a 3 starter to come in and help this team for this season. So do not be surprised if you see something like that happening. Now, the question is, who could it be? Well, like I said, I've seen some people say some things about Sonny Gray. I've also seen, like I said, some people ask about what the Giants are willing to give up as far as pitching. Again, maybe revisiting another trade with the Mets. Like I said, who are 13 games now below 500 for the first time this season and are struggling. So again, there are some teams that the Buzzards are kind of gonna kind of start circling around that, like, hey, you know, you're kind of out of it this season. What can we get from you? What can we glean from you? What can we take from your team? So again, just all depends what they're willing to give up and what they're asking for, because Jed Hoyer is going to be a shrewd operator. We know that for certain. Now, next up, let's talk about it. Why did the Chicago Cubs trade for Peterson? So David Peterson was traded for last night. We talked about this already. There was a whole episode on it yesterday. Go back and watch that episode. But I saw a lot of people, and a lot of people look at his ERA and they look at his, like I said, his numbers, and they weren't impressed. One number that stuck out to me was his strikeouts number. That did impress me. I did like the way his strikeouts were looking. I mean, like I said, we're just halfway through the season, and he already had above 60 strikeouts already this season. So that to me was encouraging. Here's another thing: he throws a sweeper. He throws a mean sweeper that can induce ground balls and get guys out, get hitters out. So with that being said, he's gonna have the defense now behind him to do that. As you just saw from this Mets defense, the Mets suck. Point blank period. Their defense is horrible. So you expected the Chicago Cubs to take advantage of that and to win these games. Here's the thing that also adds to his ERA, his earned run average, because he had a bad defense behind him. But now you put Nico Horner, now you put Dansby Swanson, now you put Alex Bregman, now you put Matt Shaw, now you put Michael Bush, now you put Ramirez behind him. You put all the guys behind him that can obviously get outs and not make errors, even though Dansby made one tonight. Um, Again, it's not going to be often, and it's not going to be something where it seems like every single night, these guys are committing errors or these guys are unable to field behind him. So he's going to get a much better team behind him to stop any ground balls and to help him, be successful. So again, I'm looking forward to seeing what David Peterson can do. It is rumored that he will pitch for the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers series, whether he has an opener that starts a game for him, or whether he comes right in and begins to pitch for the Chicago Cubs. So you will see him against the Brewers. And again, for what it's worth, I think he's coming in with a lot to prove, and he now has something to play for. The New York Mets had nothing to play for. Now you come into a team with expectations. You come into a team that is playing for something and trying to solidify themselves. Which right now they're number 2 in the wild card standings behind the Phillies. But you come to a team that is playing for something and that's trying to prove that they are one of the best teams in baseball. And so because the Cubs are trying to prove they are one of the best teams in baseball, this is what you're going to see. You're going to see them literally out here fighting for their lives and adding on to try to combat what Milwaukee is doing. And for what it's worth, the Cardinals have lost a little bit, but they have not. They're still not far out from, being, like I said, right now they hold the number 3 wild card spot in the way too early standings. So adding a guy like David Peterson is important, because not only is he somebody that can hold down the starting spot, he's an experienced pitcher. He has big game experience playing in a big city market. And on top of that, he also let's just say all you guys come back healthy. Let's say this Ben Brown thing is in a super series. We know Eric Cabrera will eventually come back. Like I said, Matthew Boyd already made his return tonight. And then, like I said, what if all your horses are back? Jameson Tyone is back. Well, then you can look at David Peterson and say, okay, well, we can move you to the bullpen, and you can come and give us an inning or two of solid of solid pitching, and just get outs. At the end of the day, the way Craig Counsell is breaking this thing down is I just need outgetters. I need guys that I can trust that are going to get out. And Drew Peterson, I keep wanting to call the man Drew Peterson. David Peterson is going to be able to get out for the Cubs. Make no mistake about it, guys. All right. Last topic of the night. Ben Brown, man. Like I said, I am very, very, very upset, very, very, very dismayed at the news that came out. And this is why, another reason why I kind of started, messaging my sources and asking, like, okay, well, if they're really concerned about Ben and they're telling us that, hey, it's serious enough for him to leave the team, go back to Chicago, get imaging done, that neck. I mean, I almost hate to say what they said, because I feel like I would be jinxing. I don't want to jinx Ben. I don't want to jinx Ben, but it's not looking good, y'all. It's not looking good. Let's just put it that way. And like I said, Ben will get an MRI done. He'll get some imaging done. They'll look at it and they will, assess from there. But it's the same spot, same injury from 2024 that cost him the rest of his season 2024. And if he's having those same pains And they can't really tell you where it's coming from or why he's having these pains. Then, like I said, that's alarming, and that could induce surgery. Um, so like I said, I wish the best for Ben. I do not want to see him on the injured list, especially after all that he did this season for the Chicago Cubs and how he just looked remarkable. Finally found his stride, finally was hitting his spots, and solidifying himself as a starter in this league, and then this happens. So this is not at all what we wanted to see, but again, like I said, we will see what goes on from here. Like I said, obviously, once Craig announces more or I hear more from my sources, then I will, like I said, reach out. Obviously, do an episode on Ben specifically. But yeah, man, it's not looking good. So I don't know, y'all. But again, the Chicago Cubs will look to add on more. So you can bet your bottom dollar they will add on another pitcher. That's coming here sooner rather than later. And like I said, we will see who that will be. I have some speculations, but we will talk about that and leave that up to them to make sure they do their due diligence and get the right person that can help this team. All right, man. Well, that's our episode for today. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure that you like, share, and subscribe so that you never miss an episode of Chicago Cubs Central. Till next time, go Cubs go. Peace.
Thank you for watching another episode of Chicago Cubs Central, the #1 spot for all Chicago Cubs content. Remember to like, share, subscribe for more Cubs content.